Hi, this is Anise Matthew, and welcome to episode 60 of the Mandala of Life, 365 Days to Self-Discovery. Today we're moving away from individual energy, the love of self, the empowerment of self, individuality, and also how we can be our authentic self, into logical collective energy, and the Gate 58. The key within this energy is to find the joy and the stimulation of life. This is where vitality lives, and also the pressure to make a better world for everybody to live in. But within this energy is also the need for correction, because only when we correct patterns or make things better than they were before can we truly have a better environment to live in, or a better world to live in. This is where joy and the love of life can be found, but only when we feel we are in a secure environment and the patterns not only protect everyone, but also include everyone. The Gate 58 is called the zest for life, or the enjoyment of living in a secure environment where things are getting better all the time. There's always an eye out to see what can be improved in the world all around us. In many ways, people consider this criticism or a need for correction. The Gate 58 is half of the channel of judgment. The Gate 18 is where we have a challenge of authority, or sometimes what we call a fear of authority. And the Gate 58 is the pressure that gives the energy to perfect patterns so that they can be improved and the world around us can be a safer environment to live in. Ultimately, logical collective energy is really where we have our secure patterns, where we have this ability to know how things are going to happen in the future. That when we go to a bus station or a grocery store, that they will have what we need. That the patterns that we rely on will be there to give us the stability that we need, because the alternate to having patterns in our life is always going to be a fear of chaos, where we really don't know how things are going to happen or what's going to happen the next day. This is logical energy, which means that it is predicting the patterns of the future. So it's about knowing things that will happen in the future. And this can be intuitive as well, because the Gate 58 is half of the channel 1858, which connects the root center to the spleen. The spleen is the only place where we have reliable awareness, because it's an awareness that comes in the now, gives us the information that we need, and moves on. And yet the spleen only has the ability to give the information once and not over again, because it isn't a motor. Unlike individuality, tribal energy, and also collective abstract energy, logical energy has very little power to get things done, to have the energy to do the things that you want to do to correct the patterns for the future. In fact, all the hope for a better future and better patterns in the future rest on the Gate 58 and also the Gate 52, two logical root gates, which means the pressure to correct things and use the energy in the best possible way can be very powerful within this gate. But before we get into new content, let's quickly go over what we talked about in our last episode. In our last episode, we talked about the Gate 10 and how it's part of the integration circuit, which means that it has 3 ways of making a channel and is influenced by a lot of different energies based on what it is connecting with in the moment. The Gate 10 is one of the 4 love gates and is all about being empowered by loving who you are, being authentically yourself. And when you're empowered by self-love, then that empowerment that you feel can be transmitted through your aura and raise the collective aura. The Gate 10 is also considered a role gate, which means that it can connect to your individual profile lines and point to a strategy that is best for you and how you interact in the world based on your profile lines. There's great power within this energy to uplift and awaken. The message within this energy is that when we love ourselves, then we can love the world around us and humanity, because only in loving ourselves can we appreciate and be okay with the diversity of the collective. And if you want to find out more about the Gate 10, please check out episode 59 of the Mandala of Life. With that said, let's get into new content. And please feel free to check out the other episodes of the Mandala of Life. The Gate 58 is half of the channel of judgment, the 1858, and is part of what's called the stream of taste. The stream of taste is a judgment, or this ability to decide what you like and what you don't like. It is your taste for things that appeal to you and things that don't. It also means that you can have a very sensitive taste profile where you can discern the differences in many different flavors. But it also says that correction is part of who you are, and correcting patterns is part of what you're meant to do. Without this energy to find the imperfections in the things that are all around us, or even in the authority that is in power, then we would always have the same patterns and eventually they would break down. But this is the energy that will see the flaw, point it out, and say, let's see if we can get something better. The flow of this energy begins in the gate 58, where we have the pressure to make an improvement, to direct your energy in a way that you're going to get the maximum benefit for the energy that you use. Because ultimately, logical energy doesn't have a lot of power because it all depends on just root pressure or root energy. It's the only motor that's connected to the logical system. So that means that the gate 58 has a lot of pressure to get it right, to be stimulated or interested in the correct things for you so that you can put your energy in exactly the right place so that you can get the most done with the littlest amount of energy. Ultimately, this is considered the place where we have vitality, a vitality that we want to share with the world, to show the world the joy of life and living in the Maya. This is also where we can have this need for perfection, an obsession with getting things just right, having everything exactly perfect, although true perfection is not attainable, and yet the perfecting process is. And that's what logic is all about. It's about getting a little bit better over and again. This is mastery of something so that we get a better version of what we had in the beginning. This is practicing over and again. So with the gate 58, we have the power and the energy to support the gate 18. The gate 18 is really about challenging authority and saying this isn't good enough, we need better. And the gate 18 continues to pick out problems that it sees. Eventually, all this energy starts to drop into the gate 48 and the well, or where we get this information about what is wrong, how we can actually fix it. And eventually, when the well feels like it has enough, then we tap into the well and it goes to the gate 16, where we speak about the way that we will experiment to improve the pattern in the future. So the gate 58 begins the process, and when it gets to the throat, that is when we want the manifestation of a better something to actually happen. But since we're talking about the gate 58 today, let's talk about the hanging gate 58. There's a few energies that are contained within the body graph that sometimes can be considered a little bit more challenging, you could say, to work with. The channel 1858 is probably one of those energies because it really does rely on the idea that instead of actually telling people how things can be improved, you're instead asking if they want the information or waiting to be invited to talk about what you can see that can be improved. In fact, if you come up to somebody who's struggling to do something and you say, I know how to do it, this is how you do it, and you immediately start to help them in some way, usually people will get offended or they don't want your help. But instead, if you come up to somebody and say, do you want my opinion? Can I help in some way? Or do you want to hear how it might be a little bit easier for you? Then immediately somebody might be way more open to what you have to say. And that's the whole key with this energy, is to know that when you want to find that perfection, to find the joy that you attain from getting things right, for perfecting the pattern, for making things better than they were before, the joy will come, but it'll only come if you use this energy in a way that people are going to align and be open to what you have to say. And when that happens, it makes a big difference in how you feel empowered and happy to help and make something better, and they feel as though you've helped them as well. So remembering that this energy is half of a projected channel, or in other words, usually does better when we're asked for what we have to offer, or in fact we are asking if we can offer our opinion or what we think about something, then suddenly it will open a door that was probably going to be closed if we just jump in and give our opinion or our advice on how to improve it. This really connects with the word criticism, and the word criticism has a bad rap in that a lot of people don't like it. But when we look at the whole concept of constructive criticism and how it is so important in the world and how we can improve so many things in the world around us by the constructive criticism, then we can see that this is one of the most important energies of the full body graph. And when it's used in its highest form in a way that you're being respected and appreciated for what you have to share, then the magic that can happen within this energy is astronomical. The Gate 58 is also a very intuitive energy, and even the full channel is very intuitive in that this is all about predicting patterns for the future. So there's an ability to see when things are not exactly as they were, to see when the pattern is slightly off, and to understand that something is going to happen based on the pattern being off. So a lot of people who are quite intuitive, or sometimes people would even call them psychic, have this whole channel or even half the channel, and have this ability to predict the future. And not only that, it has this ability, when you carry this energy, to be able to see a better pattern for people. So in other words, being in counseling or being in a field where you are helping people get a better pattern for their life is a wonderful match for your type of energy. The key with this energy, as with all logical energy, is this need to allow people to be in the flow. When we think about the flow of life, we think about having our own personal flow, but our own personal flow can align with the universal flow. When we think about the universal flow, the Gate 58 talks about the universal flow and how everybody can be included in that. And the whole point of the Joy of Life, or the Gate 58, is this ability to allow everybody to be in the flow of life, for everybody to be included. This is all about inclusivity. This is about everybody being in the flow of life, everybody having their own personal space within the flow of life. So your individual self, your authentic self, contained within the flow of life, and that the pattern should include everybody. Nobody should be left out. And that is the perfect pattern, and that is the joy of life. And that is the energy that the Gate 58 brings. This is the 10th gate of the quarter of mutation, where purpose is fulfilled through transformation. Ra Uru Hu said that the Gate 58 is a very special gate because it is only one of two gates that are root gates that help the logical system to get the energy that it needs, which means there is a lot of pressure to get a correct pattern, to get a pattern where everybody can fit in. There's also this need to have things perfect, as we talked about. But the key with the energy of the Gate 58 is to know that perfection is a process. It is something that you're getting a little bit better every time, rather than expecting that everything's going to be perfect. And when you can see that perfection is something that you work on a lifetime, and understand that every step you take in that direction of mastery or getting a little bit better is one step in the right direction, and to understand that this is not about self-criticism, and is more about using criticism in a way that it is helpful for the collective and not a personal attack for yourself or even sometimes for others, which can sometimes be the low side of this energy. The other thing about the Gate 58, which is kind of unusual, is this idea of stimulation and joy being found within stimulation. Now, stimulation is usually an abstract energy type of thing, but within this energy, logical energy, we have the stimulation. So there's this need to have something that makes you feel good. Now, the stimulation generally can come from getting things right or having a perfect pattern, but a lot of times it can be related to going out and having fun, enjoying yourself at celebrations, having parties. And as long as there's moderation in all things, and we understand when the party is over, it's time to go back to something different, then we can find balance within this energy. And usually when people are children who have the Gate 58, when they're very young, many times they have a very bright smile, or a very happy, bubbly type of personality, or a really smiley, lovable type of baby. One that learns over life what they like and what they don't like. In its highest form, this can be the joy of life that is literally contagious. When we see and understand that criticism is part of getting things better, and that only by seeing what needs to be corrected can we truly have a better and better pattern for the future, to allow and support that everyone in this world deserves to be in the flow of life, to be part of the world all around them. And there is no need for anybody to be excluded. And the Gate 58 and the Joy of Life wants to make that happen someday. And when we've learned that the joy of life comes when we have patterns that we can rely on, and that the beauty of the Maya comes with being in the flow of life, the mandala of life turns again, and we move into the energy of the fighter. This is the gate 58, half of the channel of struggle, a design of being stubborn, where there's an ability to fight for the meaning of life. Well, that's all for now, and I'll be back soon with episode 61, the gate 38, the gate of the fighter. Until then, take care, and I'll see you again soon.